Welcome, everybody. This is John Marcotte, the Heroic Dad. I am here at Empire's Comics Vault once again to round up the week's best new comics. So here's what I think you should look at if you're hitting your local comic book shop this week. The first book that I'm recommending is X-Men #1. After the giant kind of reimagining of the X-Men by Jonathan Hickman, this is where you can jump on without knowing all the back history and everything like that. It is a perfect place to start reading the X-Men. Again, it's written by Hickman, who just did a brilliant job of making the X-Men relevant again today. It's got a really kind of a unique team, a lineup we haven't seen before. We have Rachel, who's Cyclops and Phoenix's daughter from the future. She's the current Phoenix. We have Wolverine, Cyclops, looks like Cable, Marvel Girl, Corsair, Cyclops' dad, Havoc, and somebody in the background that I'm not recognizing, but I'm sure he's super important. At any rate, the X-Men have just gotten a ton of new life breathed into them, and this is where you want to jump on. It's not going to require some encyclopedic knowledge of the team from beforehand. It's #1 issue. If you're not picking this up, you're a fool. That's what I'm going to say right now. Grab X-Men #1. It's out this week. And then everything else I have for you this week is graphic novels. So the great thing about these are that they're going to tell you the whole story. You don't need to wait and come back once a month to pick up a new issue or put it on your saver file. You can just read this whole thing when you take it home. The first up is this great Ironheart trade paperback by Brian Michael Bendis. As you can see, this thing is thick. This is a big comic book. It's a little bit of an odd size. If you can see it next to the X-Men book there, it's slightly smaller in page size. But what's great about this is it's only $13 for this giant graphic novel. I'm going to say something here that I probably will repeat in the future, and that's Marvel is not good about making comic books or graphic novels cheap and affordable. Usually they charge you a lot of money for not much story. This is tremendous value. It's a huge book, and what it's doing is collecting all of the Ironheart issues from Iron Man when Riri Williams, black female genius inventor, took over Stark Industries as their main inventor after Tony Stark died. Comic books being what they are, Tony eventually got better, but she made her own suit of armor and operated under the name Ironheart. It's another way of injecting diversity to get another spin on things. One of the things, the concepts that I loved in here was that Tony left a digital copy of himself as a kind of a mentor for her. So much like in the Iron Man and the movies that you've seen, he has Jarvis that will talk to him in his helmet. She gets a digital version of Tony talking to her in her helmet. Not that they always get along. So highly recommended this. If you have any interest in this type of book at all, you should be picking this one up. Like I said, I am not usually a fan of Marvel's graphic novels because they'll give you 4 issues and charge you $20. Instead, we have this giant tome that collects 11 issues, and it's only $12.99. I don't know what they're smoking over at Marvel, but it's working out for us. So go grab yourself a copy of Ironheart. All right. The next book we're going to talk about is Goddess Mode. It's another graphic novel. It's by Zoe Quinn, who you might recognize if you followed Gamergate, and I hope you didn't, but if you do, that's where you might recognize her from. And also Robbie Rodriguez, who is one of the people who co-created Spider-Gwen. Goddess Mode is this trippy book. It's collecting 1 through 4 of a limited series that came out a little bit ago. It's about this future world where everybody's kind of plugged into this AI, and they're using nanotechnology where the AI actually gets inside your brain and can predict what you're going to want before you even know you want it. And the protagonist of this story, she is the daughter of the guy who owns the company, and it's really kind of dividing the world into haves and have-nots. And she finds out that there is this virtual world where there's magic powers, and it seems to be like they're in a VR environment, but maybe magic is real and there are real demons, and if you die in this magical other realm, you die in the real world. And she gets drawn into this intrigue that's kind of deciding the entire fate of the universe. The art in here is just absolutely gorgeous, colors particularly. This is just a pretty to look at book. It's a very inventive, crazy concept, and the kind of story that we haven't seen up until, I'd say, like the past 6 or 7 years. And really female forward, really fun story, a little something different. So if you're looking for something outside of the traditional superhero mold, Goddess Mode, definitely a good one to pick up. Fun book, brilliant art, and completely different take on things than what you might normally get from a Marvel or a DC book. And sticking with our run of little independents here, we're going to talk about Bad Luck Chuck by Leela Gwen. Bad Luck Chuck is just, I'm a sucker for these kind of, I want to say, neo-noir novels. This one has a little bit of a science fiction or fantasy twist. Bad Luck Chuck is actually a woman named Charlene who finds out, her nickname's Chuck, she finds out that she has basically bad luck powers. Wherever she goes, bad luck is sure to follow. And so what she does, what any enterprising young woman would do with if she finds that out, she hires herself out. She goes and hangs out at your dive bar until it burns down and you can collect the insurance money. So she's that's basically the premise of the book. And then she ends up getting stuck in between a mob boss who wasn't happy with her services and other mystical forces. There's like a doomsday cult that wants a piece of her, and just everything that goes wrong can go wrong, kind of probably predictably, considering that her power is having bad luck. But super fun book, collects issues 1 through 4 of the limited series that came out a little while ago. Very reasonable. It's by Dark Horse Books. And so, yeah, there's another one that you can pick up, Bad Luck Chuck. And last but not least is Calamity Kate by Mags Visaggio. If you're not following Mags on Twitter, you really should be following Mags on Twitter. This is another fun book. This is a book about a woman who wants to be a superhero, so she moves to L.A. and she picks up some guns and swords, and she's going to be a monster killer. So that's basically the whole setup of the book. It was another limited series that came out. It's collecting 4 issues. It's another one from Dark Horse. Just super fun art, super badass women. I always look at that. Just check that panel out. That alone, you should buy the book just to see this art in its entirety without this awful glare from the overhead lights that I'm getting. Just a fun, action-oriented book. Badass woman doing badass stuff. Look at her. Look at how mad she looks. Love it. So those are my 5 picks for grown-ups this week. And I got a couple picks for kids, so let's talk about those real quick. The first is Superman Smashes the Klan by Jean Wen Yang and Guri Hiro. I'm probably butchering that last one. This is actually an interesting update. Superman Smashes the Klan was an old radio serial way back in the 40s and 50s. Superman was one of the very first kind of national publications to label the Klan as a threat and an enemy. It was controversial at the time. I mean, people belonged to the Klan and thought they were a good organization. That's kind of hard to see now. But they took a stand with Superman. They said Superman is taking on the Klan, and Superman was so influential in the minds of children that he may have actually changed the perception of what the Ku Klux Klan was all about for an entire generation. That was, quite some time ago. So this is an updating of that concept. Jean Wen Yang is the guy who wrote American Born Chinese. He won an Eisner Award. It's an absolutely brilliant, brilliant book. It's assigned reading for a lot of kids. Guru Hiro is the artist from most recently on The Unstoppable Wasp. They have this really, really fun, young feeling anime style that I love. I just absolutely love it. And this is a great book for kids because you know what? Understanding the kinds of things that the Klan is all about and why they're bad, you're never too young for that. I'll probably be picking this one up myself, both because I'm a fan of the history. I love the message that it's sending. And we have a writer who's behind it and who really kind of pushed this project forward, who is an Eisner winner and really known for writing deep and brilliant stuff. That's one. And then the next one up, we have Miss Marvel, Destined. This is a reboot of Miss Marvel. The original writer on Miss Marvel, G. Willow Wilson, left to go start writing Wonder Woman, which you absolutely should be writing her Wonder Woman. And but this is the next writer that they have. They continued smartly to find people who, we have Saladin Ahmed writing. He's a great writer, and they picked someone else who has a strong connection to the source material here to write their Muslim superhero. And so this is a jumping on point. If you're into the idea of Ms. Marvel and haven't known where to start, this was the beginning of his run on the book. So we kind of reset to zero. We get some new ideas thrown in. She ends up in this, how Black Panther had this Afro-futuristic vision of the future, in Wakanda in the movie. This gives us this Middle Eastern future vision when they go to this planet that looks like a high-tech version of what a fantasy Middle East would look like. It's a fun story. Ms. Marvel will always be one of my favorite characters, so definitely, if you're looking for a place to jump on, you want to get your kids some Ms. Marvel, you can't go wrong with getting her Ms. Marvel Destined by Saladin Ahmed. And then last but not least is Star Wars Adventures. We have a story with Rey in here, Destroyer Down. So this is a story that takes place before the events in Jakku in The Force Awakens. So it's the early days of Rey, showing her as a scavenger and a survivor. If you have a kid, a little girl or boy who is into Star Wars and loves the adventures of Rey, this is just a fun little adventure that gives them another taste of that Star Wars universe, that Star Wars world, with some familiar characters and then some new characters on top. And definitely worth checking out for those kids who might be science fiction and fantasy fans or really love Star Wars more than they love the Marvel movies. So I've always been a big fan of these Star Wars adventures. I love the character designs that they've done for characters like Rey. I just think they're a lot of fun. Another good thing for kids to read. So there are my picks for this week. So if you have other ones, please leave them as comments below, and I will see you next week.